Because it's some team there. Well, it's like, you know, it was stated and you can choose to pick part. Now it's primarily standard too. It's like, well, yeah.
Is it coming through?
What I'll probably do is I'll send he's still doing all the
you go in there, you just go to let so like I did the first one. So yeah, I mean, I see that. Run
when I go live,
mix or
the only thing that sucks about our is doing change the setting. It's not right now. So that's not really it. Well, you know what? It might be extended. Look at it. So I come to the AC, the conference room. We should get a fan and blow out here. I went into that one like last year, and for like 48 hours afterwards, I was just I want to drop it all back. Like last summer, I was like, we're gonna get started. Thanks everyone for coming.
All right, so this is day 2 of our initial advanced training. For now on, our trainings will be every Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And after today, you should be able to schedule your client meetings with your group and set up that meeting and get it going. So today we're going to be going over the case studies that you guys prepared as a group, along with some advice for how your projects will go and some strategies that you can use to improve the quality of your work. Just so everybody knows, this is our Wi-Fi password. You feel free to connect to it. We don't know how strong the Wi-Fi is at this point, so we may have to have everybody close their laptops if it slows down at all.
Yeah. You shouldn't need it today.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to get started on our presentations. We're going to be voting at the end, so we'll probably number every group as they go along. Just maybe take notes on the presentation so that you can remember by the time we get to the end. And then just talk about some of the key points from the case study that your team decided to choose. Keep it to under 2 minutes just so we have a lot of groups to go through. And then again, we'll be voting at the end. So just try to remember which group that you liked. So we start with online. Would that be the easiest?
Sure.
Yeah. Online people, can you hear us? I'll maybe unmute them.
All right. So online teams, did you guys have a chance to prepare something, or at least some ideas of a case study you guys be able to discuss? Or
so we decided to cover the Chinese midlife crisis case, and I'm just going to read you off just a little excerpt of what we were able to compile all together. So we determined that the problem was that the company 99 Sushi, they needed more money to effectively market their gaming platform, but venture capitalist firms wouldn't invest until the company showed that they could have a successful launch. And they had past failures with their business model needing to be revamped. Our first hypothesis was that if the company could lower their costs by using less costly advertising methods and customer service expenses, and even replacing either fully or partially their employee salaries with stock options, then the company could get through their short-term money problems and then get the successful launch that they need in order to get funding. Another hypothesis was that if they could expand into other markets as opposed to just the college student market, they'd be able to get more cash and investor potential. Our first research plan was that we would look at the different types of advertising methods in China, especially looking at the cost effectiveness of each of them and which ones that the college students reacted to most. Also looking into different methods of channel and customer service to lower their costs. And finally, researching specific Chinese venture capitalist firms that have already invested in tech companies. And our second and last research plan was to conduct more market research into adjacent markets that can use the company's knowledge of college students, and that could probably be done through surveys.
okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Gary.
Good job.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so let's just go.
Yeah, we'll start here.
Okay, yes, the first group, would you like to?
Yeah, front of the room, if you could.
You
want to do that or just where they are?
You just stand from where you are. Just one person is okay. I don't think everybody needs to speak necessarily. So whoever wants to volunteer from your team. Unless everybody wants to speak, you want like one word thing? Maybe just one word. All right. So we did the three color bakery case, and basically the problem that they faced is, well, the situation is that there's a woman who started a gluten-free bakery business, and it's been extremely successful. She's currently selling it to 10 Whole Foods, well, supplying to 10 Whole Foods stores. and is authorized to sell across the nation with Whole Foods, but doesn't have the capacity to do that yet. She also, her retail business that she has built is doing well, and she's possibly thinking of expanding. The question she wants to know is, how do I expand? There's a couple of issues she has. She doesn't know how to, she doesn't know her costs. She doesn't, there's a lot of accounting business side things that need to be addressed in order for her to grow. Being able to know how, kind of estimate how her costs are going to grow over time, whether, like, what her production capacities are, etc. And we kind of came up with a couple of research plans. One for kind of analyzing that cost and business side of it to help her figure out what's going on. And we also looked at how do you build how should she expand? What markets should she expand into? She has two basic options. One is to build she was offered, there's a couple of businessmen in the bakery industry who want to build a gluten-free distributing company, and she was invited to come help because she has experience in product development. And so she has that opportunity, or she can continue to grow the retail side. In order to expand the retail side, it was basically how do you identify locations, new retail locations. Very similar to the industry analysis we saw yesterday. On the industrial side, the question for our research plan was to go investigate what type of other mills have been creating flours, and how they've grown over the last few years, especially with the rise in gluten intolerance. And so I examined how those have grown over time to kind of get an estimate on what the return would be for those types of enterprises. Yeah. Okay, great. You guys have anything else you want to add?
Next.
So we chose the yoga case, and basically the guy started doing sports and he got into yoga. Then he realized that the velocities for yoga could be bigger, so he did some market research and he had some estimates about prices, and he had a distributor from China and then the US.
Okay. And so his market research was pretty lacking. Sort of good word. He's had like only a handful of people he's talked to. So our first priority would definitely be market research. Establish that his idea is actually like a feasible product and one that's worth pursuing. And so there's two parts in that market research. One would be to establish, like, are there other people out there that really want the bigger yoga block? And then two, are there people that like the material that he's using, which was a balsa wood rather than just like a dense foam block. And then so we would establish that with surveys and phone calls and interviews with either yoga instructors or owners of studios, things like that. And so once we establish that there is like a market for this product, then we would look at the consumers, and the consumers, like whether or not they're individuals or studios in general, and establish a price point based on the fact that this is a premium product. And so based on some of his market research, his market research established that there was a price range of anywhere from $15 to up to $50. So we would really want to go into that.
And then the last thing we have is effective advertising to get this product out there. Landscape one option, try to have used it for weeks, maybe continue it for a little bit longer, and then create some posters and flyers just so you get this product's name out there.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Okay, so we did the Baskets Inc. company. basically what's going on is this lady, Robin Kovitz, who was in private equity, decided that she wanted to, she saved up enough capital in order to buy a business where she could be the CEO. And so she bought this basket company in Canada, which owns the majority of the market, is the largest basket company in the country. And so basically what they do is they outsource their baskets and then they do gift baskets. And the problem with the case was at the time that she acquired a majority equity in the company, the lease was up. And so she had to either re-sign a lease or switch to another location. Now the location that she has now, it's small, but during their busy season, through October through December, they rent another bigger building to do all the factory work and things like that. And so what they decided to do is kind of interesting. They decided to go with a smaller building and consolidate their efforts because there was a lot of inefficiency driving back and forth between their two companies in the busy season. Also, they're old school. All their receipts or their orders are called in and they'll write it down on paper and basically fax that paper over to the customer. And so they really need to update their systems. And they decided to do all this at once, change locations, consolidate their inventory and their efforts, and upgrade to an ERP system that will be able to track their things, their orders, and everything like that. And so they had employees ended up quitting because they couldn't handle the new system. So there was extra additional charges to training people on the ERP system and everything. So instead of trying to figure out what the cost would be to go back to that old system, we figured that we would figure out how they could decrease the expenses of their inventory, because they have baskets ranging from small, medium, large, and also you can put 4 to 30 items in each basket, and which means that they have to stock up quite a bit in their non-busy season in order to make up for all the orders that come in during that October through December time period. And so what we decided is that we would research how they could cut down the expenses, possibly not offering so many options, as well as they have like zero online presence in sales. They don't have a very good website or anything like that. And so we would look into the cost of developing a website which people can go in and place their orders and everything like that. So that way they can have more sales throughout the year where they don't have to have a stockpile of inventory waiting for their busy season. And so we figured we'd check out comparable companies in the industry. And we found a couple in Portland, Michigan, which is just across the border where this company is located in Toronto, and figure out how we can change the lead time and cut down on inventory necessary, as well as what people are doing to do well in their online sales and try and make that, if not better.
All right, great. Yep. So yeah, you guys want to go next?
Yeah, so going off of that, I mean, you gave us a good introduction. We chose the same company, Baskets. And something that really stuck out to me from the reading was the fact, something you also mentioned, their website. Their website needs to be modified. It needs to be marketed the right way. Having done IBC last semester, I realized that that's a huge thing. If you're not offering promotions or discounts, there is literally a whole market out there you're not targeting correctly. So if I were to advise Horvitz, or pronounce her name, Horvitz?
That's okay. Just call whatever.
All right,
Fred.
So if you were to offer these promotions, discounts, and market it the right way, you would have a whole different market. And then another issue that was a red flag to me was the fact that they only had one person working at the call center. So once these calls start coming in, these orders start coming in, I would add a second or a third or a fourth or fifth person at the call center, because obviously one person taking a lot of phone calls could perhaps cause them a lot of sales. So that's one thing I also thought of as I was printing articles or anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, there's one thing that I'd also look into is their shipping logistics. In there it says that they have a lot of problems getting out on time. So what I would look into is 3PL or third-party logistics, where you outsource shipping, cut down a lot of costs of actually housing your own product in its own big warehouse, that lease and whatnot. That would really reduce costs for the company and also improve consumer happiness, basically, because they can be more efficient getting products out on time.
Okay, great. So the group in back, do you want to go next?
Yeah, okay. So we did the yoga case, and so basically just a quick synopsis of the case is going from the genesis of an idea to putting the products of the idea into selling it to customers and consumers. And so the process that goes from genesis to sourcing the new product, and he decided going to either go to a US-based or a China-based. And then he did like a focus group with his yoga studio to see what would be most effective, whether his design would be good for the yoga people, the practice yoga, or whether he needed to refine his design even more. And the next section was to get product to the consumer and like getting the distribution houses, getting that focus into how to produce it, how to ship it, how to get it to people. And so he had the choice between either Alexandria or Danville, and he chose Danville because of the ideal location and proximity to where he was based out of. And the financing was the final thing that he decided he wanted to do, and he kind of needed to do more for that. But we did some additional research because of what he said. He did an initial $100 on advertising, and we were able to calculate like the ROI per day based on like how many people bought at the price. And like for example, on the first day, 4 people said they'd buy, and they would be 20, the ROI would be 25. For the second day, 14.28, when 7 people wanted to buy, and then 11.11 for 9 purchases, 9.9 for 11, and 6.67 for 15 purchases. In the final time, we actually have like a graph that goes from like as the price goes down, the number of sales goes up, which makes sense. And we, as a group, we all were able to research that the ideal price point for the product would be $40 because it would make up the cost and exceed. Yeah, it exceeds the cost of advertising, and that's my presentation.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, so did you guys want to go down the work way forwards?
All right, so we chose this award case, so this kind of gives a synopsis of what's going on. It's about an entrepreneurial couple named Malcolm and Desi, and they created hot pants, which is basically, I think of it as like yoga pants, but it helps when you exercise that it heats up and eventually you burn more calories. And so they created this entirely new product, and the entire case study kind of, it's hard case studies. It goes through the entire everything that happened. They had to, find prototypes. They found some way to outsource the prototype. And then they also talked about some marketing. They created a feedback loop for actually all the free social media sites and everything. And as a result, they ended up through their marketing have been able to saturate, not really saturate, but really been able to create a demand for the product. And then they eventually called the bankruptcy, sadly, because they had so much of the demand. I think it was like 500,000 pants they gave us up, but only had 50,000 on stock. And so they had to like return all their different. They had to like give refunds to all their different customers, and then they were able to avoid it because the customers loved the pants so much, and they were willing to wait. So then from this particular point in the case study, it talked about how they eventually continued to ramp up everything. They totally changed the structure of their company. They eventually went from an LLC to an S corp. What are the things that they do? I'm trying to think. They also added more outsources instead of just one. Instead of one plant in Taiwan, they ended up having 4. They changed their entire shipping model as well too, from more to TNT. And so now we're eventually getting to the point in the case studies where they're trying to figure out, okay, they're doing really well. They're growing as a company. They're in over 100 companies. They sold tons and tons of pants. The options are if they want to continue with the online retailer, if they want to go to retail stores.
And then the second one was if they want to go with the venture capitalists or continue to fund their own the company. And so what we would do is we would probably look at each one of these different factors. So we would look at like the online, we look at the competitors, we look at like how that's going to go. We look at the retail stores and look at different return on investment for that. And then in addition to that too, we look at the venture capitalists. The big thing, at least with the venture capitalists, at least this particular couple, is that they didn't want to give all their freedom away to venture capitalists. They didn't want to give all their different stocks to, I guess, the venture capitalists from all their shares in the company if they went that route. But they said that they'd be willing to do that if it was for the betterment of the company. And so we would like look into that different option with venture capitalists. We look at some of the return on investment and see how much it would grow for each particular option. And in addition to that too as well, at least with this particular case study, their patent is actually coming up as well. And so with their patent coming up, eventually new competitors are going to start flooding into the market. Maybe Nike will start getting involved. Let's say Reebok will probably start getting involved. All these different companies will get involved. So they'd have to kind of look at a more strategic route if they want to go more of a disruptive route or just continue on the straight and narrow. But whatever it may be. But we look at all these different factors and eventually we come up with a decision.
Okay, great.
All right, so for our case study, we did the bakery goods as well. And so it's about a lady who was retired. She's diagnosed with celiac disease. And so she had to go gluten-free. And because of that, she started experimenting with the foods, trying to make good pastries. And she came up with this recipe that's different from everybody else's. And she was some special flour ingredient. And she started selling these things. And it kind of blew up. And she started selling them in stores and producing out of her house. And it grew to where she had her own shop. And it's come to this point where she's hit her capacity. And she has options now. And so she either has the option to go on the whole East Coast with Whole Foods and provide their grocery stores, or she's got two businessmen that have approached her, want to go into a partnership with her and help her take it nationwide, or she has the option to just stay independent and raise her capacity and go from there. And so she has a son who just got an MBA, and there's not much information on what the woman's desires are in regards of how much money she wants to make or what she wants to do. It just says that she enjoys the artistic side of baking. She wants to stay with that. And so our decision was that we kind of need more information on the woman and what her desires are. But we feel that it's in her best interest to have her son involved in the decision making, so that she has somebody by her side who knows what they're doing and is in her best interest. And so she has many options, and it's really up to her desires.
Yeah. Okay, good.
All right, we also did hot pan, so we got a good introduction. So one thing that we took from it is that they already have the popularity, they have the demand. That shows in the case study where they averted bankruptcy because they had a lot of orders, but they couldn't fulfill them. So they offered refunds, but nobody took the refunds because they wanted to wait 40 to 50 days to get the payments. So that was kind of a good indicator that the demand is good. And so our biggest problem that we wanted to solve is they're thinking about either selling, going to retail, or deciding to just keep selling as is directly to the customers. And so the first thing that we'd want to do is run a cost analysis on how much it would cost to deliver to retailers, and then also how much it would cost then versus to just delivering to customers directly. And then our second thing that we want to figure out is what would be the revenue difference in going to retail versus continuing to sell through social media as is. And then how will that affect their personal individualized money that they gain from the profit versus like because of having to sell shares to the retailers or keeping it themselves. So those are kind of our two biggest things that we've researched is basically what would be the benefit of them going to retail, would they lose money? But if it was for the betterment of the company, that they could also gain money, it would be a benefit for the retail. So yes.
One other thing that I was thinking is that you could, if they decided to go to retail, you could run another analysis on different retailers, basically trying to see who historically has promoted a product better for other entrepreneurial companies.
Okay, great.
So we did Three Fellers Bakery as well. Quick recap again, it's Susan Fellers, guidance counselor to the disease, and started selling gluten-free bakery baked goods. Essentially, her goods were as good as the regular bakery's goods, apparently, and people like them. And so she's done well.
Never is good. It's always a lie. People sitting will tell you that. My mom says, say, I have sick, but I still eat wheat. It tastes awful. It tastes so bad.
I feel bad.
So I just have constant bowel distress because I'm just not willing to go without the wheat. Yeah. A little bit about me, just so you guys know.
That's a $5 bakery. So she has a lot of options. One of the things is like a family business with her accounting needs, like Will was saying. She has a lot of accounting needs. And so we were saying before she even thinks about expanding, she needs to get her own house in order. She needs to figure out what the books are, what the cost per unit is, how much money she's making per unit. And then once she knows that stuff, then she can think about what exactly she wants to do with it. And she has a lot of options to trade off. She can outsource it, she can keep it in-house and increase production at home, stay local or go national. And a lot of it really is you have to find out her opinion, like they were saying, she has a lot of things she has to decide still. And so you want to get a lot of data from her on her opinions, as well as a lot of financial data for the company itself.
Okay, great. And then you guys group one.
All right. So we did the Charles Polish company. Carlson. His name is Charles. And so you gotta say Carlton, yeah, it's a long name. And so basically what this company is that they were originally built around like wax for floors. They kind of just operated within that market in the beginning. Then they worked themselves into industrials, and that kind of where the case takes off. And so I won't go through all the intricate little details because it was actually fairly long. I had a lot of information. So basically what it came down to is two questions. What is the fair value of the company if they choose to repurchase, or not repurchase, but basically purchase the shares of another shareholder? And then B, can the company finance the purchase of this person's shares? So basically what it is that there's Charles and there's Jim. 50-50 ownership. It's about $2.5 million a piece of that value. So they're basically just trying to decide what's the value of the company. And then if they end up buying these shares, one person buys the other person out, can the company afford to do that? It's essentially what it is. And so basically, when it comes down to using the fair value of the company, determining that, we basically took this in a more technical route and did basically kind of a moat analysis, Porter's 5 forces. We didn't really go into any of the actual analysis as much as we just kind of went through, read the case, and made out a plan for what we want to research. And so it's kind of down to two things, qualitative and quantitative analysis. And so under our qualitative analysis, we really kind of just want to look at the growth of the company, the industry. Is the industry growing relative to the economy or less than that? Because that'll obviously support whether or not this company is going to be more valuable or less valuable in the future. Its competitive position, reputation, brand, goodwill. A lot of this is due diligence, something that's really important when it comes to looking at the value of the company. One thing that we also looked at is whether or not their revenues are actually cyclical or not, which we found that they're not actually cyclical. And then their business model, how efficient is their business model, how efficient is their management decision making, because obviously whoever's in charge of this company is going to have a huge effect on the value moving forward. So we took a huge weight on that. And then the other kind of things that we looked at in terms of just overall, just the health of the company financially, they had competitive positioning, financial explanations, they had balance sheets, they had a lot of information there. So really it just comes down to analyzing that, putting that into basically just I don't even know, like a matrix of sorts to determine what we can really value these shares at going forward. Credit rating for the debt financing, obviously, if that's something that they're able to do, what assets do they have on hand that will either allow them or not allow them to afford taking on this debt, should they choose to do that. And then kind of just summarizing at the end whether or not the findings, the calculations, the technicals support these two questions. So.
Okay, great, thank you. So the hope of this was to see that there's lots of different types of business problems. There's lots of different solutions that people come up with. You guys all came up with really good ones. Some of them were more in depth. Some of them were very surface level. We're going to talk about that today and how to get more in depth So what we're going to do is now vote for the bag of gummy bears, the winning team. Only people can eat the gummy bears because we can't virtually send you the gummy bears. So the votes, I wrote them down on the board here. So I identified which case study they were and the group. So 2 starts here. We ended with 1 because I messed up my counting because I couldn't be online people. So I'm about to start a poll. So you guys should now see that on your Slack channel. You can log on and go vote for whoever you think was the best team. Don't vote for yourselves, but vote for the team that you think dived down the most, got the most things that they would want to test, or they thought about something that you thought was unique or interesting in their analysis. And this is really for fun. If you guys don't get any votes, like don't feel bad. This isn't like life or death. This is, okay, we've had 17, 18 votes.
We have about 42 people here.
Yeah, we got like 40-ish people here. Come on, guys. These are not imported, but the company is foreign, so that's kind of cool. And these are mystery flavors, so you didn't know what flavors you're eating. It's like, you know, that's cool. Oh no, wait, these are made in Germany. These are imported. This is high class stuff right here.
Germany.
That is
They're not the sugar free, are they?
They're not the sugar free. They're full of sugar. Okay, has everybody voted? About 10 left. Okay. Well, I'm going to keeps on bouncing up and down. It's very odd. Okay. Ready? I'm going to call it now. So, our winning group is Group 1. Congratulations. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. So there's many ways to solve a problem, and there's many things to think of, and the goal that we're going to be discussing today is really thinking about all your questions that you have. Questions are fantastic. Has anybody taken a design thinking class? One person. Okay. Asking lots and lots of questions is what we really want to do with these projects. Oh, there you go. It was already being shared. I believe. Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. So we want to ask lots and lots of questions while we're doing our research, because often we find interns just get the tip of the iceberg. As we know, most of the iceberg is actually underneath the water, and if you just get the tip, then you miss 90% of the value. And that's why we are going to be, most of you are going to be on just one team, because there are some people who can be on 2 teams with more time commitment, but we want you to really dive down deep into the projects, and early on, and I'm going to talk a little bit time-wise, early on, dive down deep and kind of research weird things, go down a rabbit hole for a couple hours, maybe a day, that might be useful, because you might end up discovering something that's totally not useful, might discover something that is somewhat useful, or something that leads you to something that is useful. So we want you guys to take the advantage of that and to really understand that stuff, because this tip of the iceberg is the easy stuff. It's less valuable. It's the Googling. It's even just like finding populations, like census, stuff like that. Those easy databases, pretty much anybody can find. And you can create some value in data analysis like that. But what we really want to focus on is this stuff that's on the bottom. You guys like my animations? My own side of animations. This data is the much more harder data. It's the much more valuable data. This is why they're doing a project here at the RBDC. It's for this data on the bottom. The surface level stuff, they could probably have done themselves. So we really want to focus on this data. And to get it, your team of racially neutral and gender neutral individuals it's going to struggle. And you might need to try 10 approaches in order to figure that out. So if you want to figure out how deep that iceberg is, it might take you a couple approaches. You're way off, you're way too high, you're closer. You're like, oh, wait, we have something. And then you actually find how deep the iceberg is. And that's what we want you guys to do and to really implement in your projects. But in order to do this, it needs to be done early on. If too much time is wasted up front, then it can delay your project. So these value-adding dives, or I guess searches, are extremely valuable, but you gotta make sure that you allow the time for it to occur. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. The scientific method, what is the scientific method? Anybody remember like science in high school? I think they talk about it at like 101 here, science foundations. Yeah, what's the scientific method?
To observe something, come up with a hypothesis, and prove if that hypothesis is valid or if you don't, if it's invalid.
Exactly. So there's lots of testings. It's this pivoting of testing an idea, seeing if it works or it's working or not. If not, test a new idea. You know, there's this famous thing about like Thomas Edison. He didn't find how to create a light bulb. He found 1,000 ways to not create a light bulb, and eventually he found a way that created light. We want to implement something like that. Hopefully not spend 1,000 tries on it, but we want to spend a good number of tries to flesh out these projects. Because if you just try one, it might work, but it might not be the best. Kind of a good, better, best type of scenario. It eliminates putting all your eggs in one basket. Sometimes interns will put all their eggs into one survey. Okay, we understand the demand of this product, so we're going to create a survey and we're going to send it out to people. And then they create a survey and either nobody takes it, or the survey data is crappy, or they realize halfway through they did something wrong. And then, oh, that was a whole project, is this survey, and now we have nothing. And that happens all the time. Or, okay, we are going to find this type of data, and then all of a sudden you realize, wait, that data we can't find in this state because of this state law. So now we are totally screwed, essentially. And often interns will do that, and they will find out that they are in this pickle during like week 4 or 5 or 6, midway through research, and all of a sudden have to restart everything and rush to the finish. So we hope that when you are doing your projects in a scientific-ish method and creating lots of assumptions and testing them quickly, what we want to do is create a funnel. And I'm going to talk about this more on the other slide. A funnel of assumptions, of questions. It is just need a ton of them here, and quickly eliminate and then narrow them down into more core questions or core assumptions that are more valuable after you've eliminated some, and then spend the majority of your time on a few that are most valuable. And I already talked about kind of the negative results, just as positive. So this is a little bit of like a timeline. You can't really see the colors. They get like progressively darker. But so in the first week, what we're going to want to do is define the scope. This is meeting with the client, understanding what his goals and objectives are, and then gathering lots of preliminary data. This preliminary data is going to help you get oriented with the industry, and it's going to help understand what are those questions, what are the assumptions, what are the things that need to be understood in order to prove the scope that's kind of being addressed. And then create a list. This is this big, all these ideas, all these assumptions, all these questions, and start attacking them. Attacking them. I said attacking them. That's not a word. Attacking them, and test and collect the data, and try to do it in a quick, efficient way. And then, if you need to, if you learn something that needs to be addressed, add a new assumption, add a new hypothesis, or retest it in a different manner in order to better validate it. And then you're going to present those findings at the end of the project to the client. So, for example, one project that was done last semester was a project called knee jack. Knee jack was a cool knee brace that would allow you to kneel down and put all your weight on your shin and on your thigh. So your knee wouldn't actually touch the ground, so you had knee replacement and stuff like that. So the team, so the client was like, I think this should be sold through construction, because construction's great. I'm a construction guy. I have knee pain. Construction people have knee pain. And so that's great, client, that's what you're saying. But what he really wants to know, what his venture capitalists want to know, who wanted to invest in him, is that really the best, or what is the best channel to send out this product? So what I tried to get the team to do, which they didn't really, they kind of did, they like to, would be something like this. Create a list of 10 or 20 different channels or different criteria that would be needed for those channels, and then spend a couple hours on each channel, eliminate it to maybe the 5 best channels, and then research those channels and spend all your time finding ways to analyze the market size or demand of those couple channels. And they didn't really do what they did is they just picked like, I think this channel, and I think this channel, and I think this channel. They picked 3 channels just out of the thin air of their imagination. And then they just focused on one channel, which was great. It was a good channel. We had lots of valuable data, but for all we know that there was this 4th channel, and that would have been his golden goose channel where he would have been able to get insurance to pay for it and tons of money, and that's where he should have been. And we don't know that because the team didn't go broad enough initially and focus down. Does that make sense? Kind of. I wrote a really silly example one late night when I was making this PowerPoint about apples. So say your client wants to know who likes apples the most, what state eats the most apples. You might look at a bunch of different type of preliminary data like states that produce apples, maybe favorite candy flavors, because maybe some correlation between people who like apple flavored candy, or I don't know. Maybe eating habits, people who eat healthy maybe eat more apples than other people. So you might do a lot of this background research, and you might list a bunch of assumptions or hypotheses that need to be tested. So people in apple producing states like apples more. So maybe people in Washington just love apples because like Washington produced lots of apples. Or maybe they hate apples. I don't know. And then you might identify some of those that are the most valuable, I guess. You might survey those people, and then you might prove them true or false. And then you might end with a key finding of females who are health conscious from Arizona like apples the most. You have people in Washington don't like apples very much because they're just full of apples and they're just like bored of apples. That could be a possible project kind of following these steps. Does that make sense? Questions on this? Yeah. Or
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I stand up and just?
You are welcome to spend as much time as you want. Cool.
Yeah, so this is a really great way to go about collecting data, testing, and verifying assumptions. We really want to push that hypothesis-driven testing like David's talking about. I just want to give a brief example, something I was thinking back about on when we're kind of thinking about this kind of training. And you're thinking about the iceberg in terms of what is available to you and kind of underneath the water, what's going to be harder to get. A lot of the times, you guys might have clients who don't know exactly what they want themselves either. They might have an idea of what they want, but they haven't. The reason they're paying us is for us to go out and really kind of flesh out the concepts that they're really trying to get at. And so I just kind of want to add to this a little bit is that some of you guys might have clients who are going to be super involved in what you're doing. And that's going to be great for you guys because you guys will be able to get constant feedback. But some of the other guys, you might have clients that just have, you'll do the consultation, the first one, the second one, and then your final. And so it's really important for you guys during those first few consultations to not be afraid, do not sit back, but start asking questions, start trying to get some of that iceberg out of the water. The more you can kind of see what's really going on before your project really starts, the better chance you'll have. Ask a ton of clarifying questions. Repeat back to them things that they say so you understand. Take copious amounts of notes. The more you can get this iceberg out of the water before you start, the easier it'll be. I'll just give one example of something that that kind of goes along with this hypothesis-driven testing. I did a market analysis for Sukin. They're a marketing company here in town a few years ago. And he was coming out with a data science textbook. And he wanted us to poll, he wanted us to basically send out a survey to all the data science professors in the country and get their opinions on data science textbooks.
And so we're kind of sitting there talking in the meeting, and he's talking about data science. But he's like, see, I like data science. I kind of want to do data science, right? And so I'm a little familiar with the topic. But he was saying some things that I was like, huh, that's not really what data science, that's not what I'm familiar with does, you know what I mean? And so I started asking questions like, okay, like, and I started putting together, okay, they're a marketing company, so they're focused on marketing materials, right? And so you start asking clarifying questions. Well, what exactly kind of professors do you want us to poll? And, you know, start getting some of those questions out. I come back, I don't think I asked enough questions. That was kind of a learning lesson because we started getting into the project, and we're gathering all this data on statisticians and, you know, mathematicians, you know what I mean? Like people who are doing data science from that aspect. And we kind of come back to him, we show him this stuff, and he's like, oh, that's not what I was thinking at all. I wasn't thinking that. And so we had done all this research, we kind of started with a hypothesis, but then we got it verified, right? And so what we ended up doing was going and gathering a list of definitions for data science, like everything that data science could incorporate itself. We showed it to the client. He verified that he wanted marketing analytics, really, right? And so what we did was we then focused all of our research. We went and got all the other people, all the mathematicians, computer scientists. We surveyed them anyhow because we thought there might be some interesting things to glean. But when it came time to give our presentation, not only did we have responses from all the marketing analytics people, but then we said, okay, let's compare it and contrast with the computer science people and the mathematicians, you know what I mean? And so that's really kind of I just kind of want to add that in as like a way to, you know, your hypothesis-driven testing doesn't necessarily even start when you're looking for data. It starts the second you meet with your client. You start asking questions, start kind of verifying some stuff. The more you can get a clear picture of what exactly they want, the better off you'll be. So, thanks.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that completely. And you're going to do like a mini one of these in that client consultation.
Yeah.
Because hopefully, before you even meet with your client, you've looked at their business, you know what they do, their industry, if they sell products, you kind of know what products they sell. So basically, you've already gathered that preliminary data. You might have already created a list of assumptions that you want to ask in a consultation about like, okay, so I know you sell these things, and you say you want to do a feasibility study for this, so like, you can always start planning out like a list of questions that you might want to be asking that client in that consultation. And then you can test it directly with front of them. So this thing is, we can use it during the whole entire project. You can also use it in many short periods during consultations, as well as just throughout the periods, points in your life. This is a great way to save time, because especially if you are testing these assumptions and confirming these hypotheses with your client or just through data collecting, you can easily discount something within a matter of days, or get clarified within a matter of days instead of waiting weeks or months and doing a bunch of work and then having to, because if he never clarified with the client that he really wanted marketing analytics stuff, they could do the whole entire project essentially wrong. So it's really important to make sure we're always clarifying and that we are testing constantly. Yeah.
So in computer development, one of the ways they do this is they've invented something called agile development, and they do things in sprints. They do it a lot for like working on apps. So they'll do work for 2 weeks, and then they'll say, hey, is this? Then they'll stop and send it, and then they'll say, is this actually what we're wanting? And that way they've only got 2 weeks of work in. So it's used in a lot of different things. This trying to make sure you're on the right track making sure you're on the right track often.
Yeah. And it's just something new that we're trying to implement this semester. Have any of you guys taken 499? The cross case study class. So this is basically a super watered down version of like emergent strategy, discovery driven planning, as is at least what we're trying to do. Or lean startups. If you guys have read the book by Lean, it's a good book. Like, it's not great, but it's like okay. If you are interested in stuff like this, they talk a lot about assumption-driven testing, especially you guys working on, we have a couple of projects that are like startup-y projects. And with startups, basically, there's a bunch of hypotheses. There's a bunch of really core assumptions, like somebody wants my product. Somebody's willing to buy for this much. Someone, I can buy from this, I can buy from my supplier at this much. And I can sell using this channel or whatever it might be. And all those are just assumptions that the business owner is hopefully is assuming is going to work. Maybe they have a couple of years, a couple months under their belt, and they're looking to expand or whatever they might be. But each one of those things needs to be tested. It needs to be identified and confirmed and validated. So that's what we really want to do over the course of this semester. So what we're going to do right now is look at a really quick example project. It's a project that I will reference a ton because I like it, because it's my project that I did when I was an intern here. And I'm going to go over like really quick. I'm not going to go over it all. But I'm going to go over like for 5 minutes. So who knows what a startup incubator is? Anybody startup incubator know what it is? No. Okay, so they are super duper cool. I'm a big fan of them. Basically, it's like a co-working environment where startups like will rent a desk, and then they'll use that desk and work in it. There's lots of resources that go into Startup Incubator that are there. So essentially, so this is kind of like what you'll be delivering to your client. This is the final consultation. This is what I sat with the client, which was the city of Rexburg. It was Scott Johnson. He's in charge of economic development in the city of Rexburg and in Madison County. So this is kind of giving you an overall zoom of like what will be happening and what you can kind of be delivering. We're going to give you a new template. This template looks really bad. It just looks old. So the scope of the project was threefold. It was a competitive analysis where we looked at competitors and compared their features. It was a demand study, understand demand of students, as well as local businesses that are currently in-home, as well as potential other businesses in the area. And also grants to understand how this could potentially be funded by economic grants. So that was kind of a threefold plan. We then went to the methodology of how we collected the data, how we researched it. This is going to outline so the client knows what was done as well as how much was done, to kind of validate your effort that was put into it. What it also does is it is a really good way to allow them to perform additional research. They can then try to mimic the study or something like that, or do additional kind of analysis on it. So we looked at 32 other incubators in these states, and then we used their websites, articles, social media, emailing, phone calls, and in-person visits to understand these incubators and how they worked and how they operated. And then we compared them using 66 data points to other incubators. We surveyed a bunch of societies that the client wants to focus on because they were like business-centric societies or might be more likely to have people who are interested in starting up businesses, as well as local Facebook survey and calling in-home businesses in Rexburg. There's actually almost 1,000 businesses in Rexburg, if that surprises you guys. Yeah, I don't know how many of them are open. And then we searched these following databases. Cool. Oh, you guys don't see it. Okay, so this is a map of the 32 facilities that were analyzed in the case study. The like bluish color one is Rexburg. All the red ones, so all of them were analyzed. There's sometimes where comparable facilities is analyzed. And these are facilities that more follow the population base of Rexburg, Idaho. We then looked at the building sizes. A lot of these building sizes, they didn't know. So a lot of them are actually analyzed using the method that Will was talking about yesterday, going onto Google Earth and creating a ruler. And I'll go to Google Earth, Street View, see, okay, this building's 2 floors. On the website, they say they're on the 1st floor. And then I trace out the building and then do the math. We looked at the city populations to understand what was the median city population within the city that it was in, as well as the area that it could pool from. So we 10-mile radius of the city using another cool tool provided by actually government database, which allows you to find a radius of the population in of a city. We then looked at a scatter plot of the building size compared to the city population. See, there's a correlation. What we see is that there's really not much of a correlation. The R squared is super weak. What that tells the client is that really any size square footage is okay. There's not a certain square footage that's required for the size of the city. And he was very concerned about that because he wanted to build a facility here, and he was like, well, it should be 10,000 square feet or 5,000 square feet or something else. And this told him that there really wasn't much importance, I guess. We then looked at the classroom side, or what type of rooms were offered inside of the facilities: conference room, private offices, co-working space, dedicated spaces. We then looked at the types of memberships and the features that were offered in them, as well as benefits and prices and more prices and just tons of stuff. This presentation is over 40 slides long. I hope this kind of gives you a gist of what is included in a final presentation. We did lots of interviews with them. We talked about individuals tend to travel from very small distances. Tenant facilities said less than 10 miles. The majority of them, which I don't remember now, it was like 8 of those 10 said less than 5 miles people travel from the facility. We looked at colleges and if college communities were more affected or more likely to have a facility. We looked at what percentage of the current membership were college students, and seeing there's a correlation because this is like a college town. Like 80% of this town is like, at some degree, at some level or another, a student, according to the US Census. The town would disagree with that. It's actually funny, Rexburg always disputes census data. So they don't believe any of the census data because they're like, you don't count as correct. They record it all. So this is an example of a final presentation. Every project, not every, 90% of your projects are going to have a final presentation like this in a PowerPoint-ish format. And each project is going to have a paper as well. And this paper is going to, this one, for example, is 34 pages. They tend to be somewhere around 20 to 30 pages long. And it's going to essentially talk in greater depth about everything that's in a PowerPoint. So all the graphs that are in a PowerPoint are also going to be in a paper, and you are writing an analysis on them. And we will have further trainings on the paper writing and on and creating a PowerPoint and kind of some pet peeves of Will's and how to make them look good. But we just wanted to kind of go over this to give you the broad overall view so that you know kind of going into it, what are you most likely going to be delivering to the client. With this project also was delivered the matrix and all of the data as well as all the surveys, as well as some economics type things of some feasibilities and pricing. If you price it at this point, so it's kind of an Excel sheet. So you price at this point, this much occupancy, this square footage, automatic calculate how many desks you fit in that square footage. It kind of came up with the total profitability of the facility. And these were all things that helped the client understand what was the feasibility of this. Can it financially be sustained? Is there demand for it? So this was the competitive analysis. You guys can't see it all. But it just kind of goes on and on and on. A lot of it was from interviews, so it's descriptive in text, and then a lot of it is also quantitative stuff as well. Any questions on kind of like final deliverable presentations, papers? Yeah, no, yeah.
So all of the folders that you have are not necessarily going to be all of the folders that each of our projects has to have. So we just have to basically have a presentation, a paper, and then what? Like,
all supporting documents or, yeah. They don't need you like your workbooks, like your like the ones you use to like mesh the data and like do crazy stuff and all it's ugly. They don't need that, but they need like the raw data, like the that type of stuff. So they could then, if you have a survey, so for instance, last semester, the DOE did a project with us for kind of a new course thing that they're developing. We had like 900 survey responses. So we gave them that core survey data so they could then provide further analysis, more than the analysis that we provided. Because the clients, they pay for projects, they own it all. You don't own the data, the RBDC doesn't own the data, they own it all. So it's really important that all that data goes back to the client at the end. Yeah.
So if I know is projects you cannot use as your school project, something like that. So you can...
Yeah. So yes. I have this downloaded on my computer. I should not. I didn't delete it just because like I was a project manager, so I was like, oh, I'm still working on RBC, and I use it for trainings. I use it other types of stuff. So that's why I've downloaded, just because in Google Docs it formats everything weird. But yeah, so that's why we like everything to be done in Google Drive, so that used as a repository, because we don't own this data. It's very project specific. There's some projects here that will have a non-disclosure, that you will sign a piece of paper saying you will not talk about anything in the project at all. There's some projects which the client's very open with, he doesn't really care. Some of them will go on the hush-hush without a non-disclosure because maybe he's releasing a new product and the patent isn't done yet. So, you know, it all depends on your project. But it's not something you want to like advertise to the world, just because these projects are not owned by us. Yeah.
I don't know if you answered this question before, but like on our resume, can we say like we did this feasibility study for this?
No. So for this project, I think it was on my resume. I performed a feasibility study for the city of Rexburg, dealing with, I think it even said like a startup incubator, or like the feasibility of that, looking at demand, looking at competitors and stuff like that. So yeah, you're totally good to name drop and do whatever you want and talk about the project in specific or vague details depending on, you know, the client. And you should get a good feel of the client, because if he's like sign this non-disclosure, don't talk about it. But if they don't, then you're pretty flexible. And like our clients are usually pretty chill. So yes.
Are you able to use that example that you used, or are we going to have some kind of example like presentation that we can look at in other case?
So yeah, and that's something I was going to go over. So hopefully you guys all have the intern resource folder shared with you. You don't need to pull it out now. You can if you really want to. What I recommend you doing is you right-click it, and then mine doesn't say yours will. It will say add to my drive. When you do that, it's going to add to your My Drive. It's going to pop up here and be saved on your homepage. This intern resource folder is a great place to access information. It has the timelines. Okay, so this is ALPS Advanced. This one's ALPS Basic, your ALPS Advanced, so I would recommend using that timeline. The other timeline will be wrong. There is a quick tutorial that a past project manager made, which you can use. These trainings have a bunch of different types of trainings. If you want to learn more about Slack, how to use that, Google Calendar, how to use that, research and data collection, and we'll talk about Qualtrics, how to use that, how to bin data, things like that, which we'll discuss in our weekly trainings as well. Presentations folder has examples of past projects, so you will see the Startup Incubator as well as some other past projects that have been done. You see kind of other ways that interns did it. You will also see templates, which you can ignore because these templates I don't like, and we'll be redesigning. It's what we've used for the past like 10 years. It's not even in widescreen format, and they just, so yeah, they just look subpar in my book.
You have to use those templates.
So not these. The new ones, yes. The new ones that will be created because it will have the RBC branding on it, and to make it uniform, because for some of the projects we do use as marketing to gain future projects. Yeah, unless there's like a special exception made. So if you want to not use it, talk to us. Might need to talk to Will to kind of like get it. Yeah, we have like a style guide that it all needs to meet, and our marketing people. So yeah, this is not me. I actually requested, so I was like, I'm gonna make this new thing. I wanted like a high-res logo, and the email I got back was make sure it's following the style guide, attach the 20, 30-page style guide. So, so in the reports and writing, there are also examples of some past projects that have occurred. So you can use those as resources, as well as the templates for those. We will go over a special training just on Word. Oh man, I have a tough time saying that word. My R is too soft. And kind of how to format that so it also kind of follows the style guide. And there's lots of cool tricks in Word that I didn't know existed. That like Word will automatically do like everything for you, which I used to do manually by hand, like put notes, like it does for you, but like it will automatically do like all citations, in-text citations. So I didn't even know that until I did my internship here. Cross-referencing and hyperlinks. You can cross-reference graphs with figures. You can create table of figures all automatically, table of contents all automatically. So we're going to go over those types of things, as well as how to create a graph inside of Word and not a picture. So lots of stuff like that. So that's the Google Drive. It's a really good resource. Highly encourage taking a look around, going and opening up some stuff. For junior analysts, this folder is kind of important because you are getting a stipend. So we'll need a W-9 filled out for you. You are 1099 for tax purposes. And then your junior analyst here to request your stipend because we need an invoice from you. So that's just for junior analysts. If you don't remember if you're junior analyst or research specialist because you don't remember what the position was in the email, feel free to talk to us and we will go over that and confirm that with you guys. Does that make sense? Any questions before we continue? No? Okay. What we are going to do right now is exciting. I hope it's exciting and fun. I think we're just going to use your team groups and your tables. Unless you guys really don't like each other, then we can kind of mix you up. Do you guys want to get mixed up? Okay. So, who here is a really good architect? Oh. Any good architects? No? Okay, well then, hopefully this will be fun for you guys. So, I went to Wally World yesterday and bought some of the cheapest, crappiest, less sturdy spaghetti that I could, and as well as some of the least sticky marshmallows that I could. So each team is going to get a stack of marshmallows, a handful of 2 marshmallows, and some spaghetti. And the goal is to win. We know about a candy. I forgot about this. We'll get you guys in that. Is to get the most points, okay? So the objective is to get the most points. There's many ways to get points. Everybody's gonna start with a -20 because you're using both a spaghetti resource and a marshmallow resource. These marshmallows are also colorful, so that's very exciting. They are 4 fruity flavors: strawberry, lime, lemon, and orange. So that's exciting. You get 2 points per inch of height achieved, okay? You get 40 points if you can support, we're not gonna use a book, we're actually just gonna use my cell phone. So if it can support my Galaxy Samsung S6, you get 40 points. If it can span a 2-foot gap, that's between 2 tables, you get 20 points. And I'll measure that with a ruler, so what 2 feet is. If it can survive a 7-foot drop, then it gets 60 points. If you can do all of them, it will get however many points, however tall it is. So you can double up. You can have both height and supporting. You can do just height. You can do just supporting. You can do whatever you want, okay? So there's lots of options. So I would highly encourage you to like talk and plan it out and decide what you guys want to do strategy-wise before, but it's all up to you. We're going to need 15 minutes. So you're going to have until 11:30 Okay?
Do you get multiple points per egg? Do you have multiple points? So how big are the team?
So team can be a table. So that's the 4 of you guys. Okay? So send a team representative up, grab a couple handfuls of marshmallows, as well as spaghetti.
Okay.
So there are no restraints on the quantity of spaghetti that is able to be used. So
Here, I'm just gonna empty some of these.
So if you need more spaghetti, feel free to come up to us. Grab more. Okay, you got till 11:30. And I have my handy dandy measuring tape. Can we get the thing right away? So we can like see how high it's Yes, I will do that right now. So for those joining us online, you're welcome to, we're going to do this for like next 15 minutes, then we're just going to like measure it out. I don't know how useful it would be. You guys can either watch us or you can log off and then just catch it on YouTube. I'll upload it and we'll send out a link. And then you can just kind of like watch like the last 5 minutes because we're basically just going to do this and a couple tips at the end, kind of tips for success. So you can do whatever you want. You can stay. We'll cast the whole thing. Okay. Here, actually, Okay, so one quick note, guys, and this is kind of small, is that to support a book, to get those points, it needs the book or the phone needs to be at least 6 inches off of the ground. You can't like place 2 marshmallows and you can stick it on top. To survive a drop from 1 foot, it needs to be at least 1 foot any side. So it needs to be at least like a 1 foot by 1 foot cube minimum in order to survive the drop and get the points. Okay, so you can't like drop like a little tiny like ball of crumpled up like marshmallows. Okay, unless the ball is 1 foot wide. Okay, so just those kind of small head and pocket. You could if you want to, but you wouldn't get extra.
So if we break one of these, does it still count as one resource?
Okay, no, so then you guys can break as many CAs you want. What I mean by negative 10 points per resource used is just you're using spaghetti and marshmallows. If you want to just use CA somehow, you put only 10 points. And we start with a negative 20 points, essentially. So you can use as many CAs as you want, as many marshmallows as you want, break marshmallows, whatever you want to do. And you guys have about 12 more minutes left.
We're not actually doing parties, so something that was a little strong. The thing is, it loses a little bit of its strength as you do that. I used to just 5. Solid.
That's for this side. So about halfway through, we've got about 7 more minutes left.
If you wanted to, and then put another invert, make sure you attach that video also one last. So you have like a short zone and share. So make sure it's exactly other than so basically those yeah, absolutely. What we need to do is we turn it upside down. Yeah. Just because that way you don't have to worry about it. If we turn it upside down and then just have some support beams coming here. Things will get different. In the middle, or we don't even, it's not a bad idea. Because it's just a triangle and we see something. But then the middle would have to, whatever's between that middle arm would have to hold the entire base. Kind of like this, from whatever. Yeah. Plus, so that's not okay. So, build
I can make it a lot shorter than like
Yeah.
the stop.
I don't know. Yeah, that one.
Are you gonna double this?
Okay, so due to the very sad nature of this, I'm gonna give you guys next to like 4 minutes. The goal is get as many points as possible. And I feel like a lot of you guys are still like very mid-construction. So that was not meant to be mean. It was just meant to speak to an actuality. Yeah. Minimum at least a 1 foot cube. The 7-foot drop, I don't think it's actually possible. That's why it's supposed to make points. Because if you do it, then you only need to Oh.
I was gonna say, I had more time. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, how much more time do you guys feel like you need? Okay, well, well, it's just kind of like I want to get this done before pizza comes. So, okay. So we will go until 11:45. 10 more minutes. And Starburst is the prize. Tropical Starburst. Because from Chinese and Blonde, they all want to wear tropical clothes.
Oh, it's like
Any more spaghetti left? I'm going to eat so much spaghetti until I get we're yeah, except I'm gluten intolerant. Yes.
Try your phone.
What is that?
I was like, oh yeah, that's a lot. put some spaghetti in there.
You were right.
You want to add another double bond?
Yeah, charges your phone on the break.
Put it right here to hold it. Chill, chill.
There we go. There we go.
So, yeah, I would spend stuff like that.
So this death structure is not that way.
Yeah, so I'm moving down about 6 Huh? I'm wired. Well, I guess I can't.
And they would put this, you don't want to try to like stupid outside. Just to the opposite.
So just for those of you who are trying to make a bridge, this is the 2-foot gap right here. Just measured it out 2 feet.
I don't think anyone can try that.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
No, we just asked.
Oh, you just asked. Oh. And I would have done bridge if I was you guys. I feel like it's in art. Is it in art? Anybody need more spaghetti or more marshmallows? We don't like.
Well, we also
So we
Okay, one more minute. You and I will sit in for the guys. Right?
We have. The fact that it's slow.
The question is it over the 6 inches?
Yeah, well, yours is 6 inches, don't let your trial. Can you have the ruler?
Yeah.
Well, you gotta take it from ours is over 6 inches. That's all we gotta do.
To be honest, it wasn't. Well,
No,
6 inches is off.
it's like a project, it's very.
It has to be 6 inches.
You don't ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, one has to be 6 inches.
You'll take it by general vote.
One has to be 6
Um,
inches.
No. Okay. Okay, so stop, everybody. Okay. So, hopefully that was good. So, this is challenging. I know that it is very difficult. Yeah, you want questions. Bathroom is, you go out a hallway to like the exit or the entrance and take a right, and it's down there. All right, so this is very challenging and very difficult, and our project is also very challenging and difficult. Multiple methods of attack. This is just kind of fun, so don't feel bad if you guys weren't able to build this great structure or anything like that. So what we're going to do is now go over points. Does anybody not have something to judge? All right, so you guys are going to go for height?
Yes,
and
and phone.
And phone, really? Okay, so you guys are 20, 23, yeah, so we'll round up 24 inches. Oh, actually,
I'm 48.
yeah, okay, so 48, and then phone?
Yep.
Where's my phone? Oh, my phone's over there. Okay, so you guys have 48 points. And then phone. So, okay, they did it. Okay, so I can pull my phone out. Okay, so so it's 48 plus 40, so it's 88. So you got 68 points. Wow, I'm actually really surprised. I didn't think anybody was going to make 20. I thought these people were going to get positive. Okay. Are you guys going for the phone? Okay. I'll let you guys sit down, because I know the guy
It just twists.
Yeah. So, I just wanted to go on my phone. Okay. Oh, now, you guys do get some height, I guess. I should have mentioned that.
There are some calls.
Here, Jordan, come here for a second. Do you want to be recorder? Yeah. Can you be recorder? I'm gonna shut your house. Okay. So, go to the next group. Are you guys seeing height? Hey, the time is over. You can keep adding. So, you know, so it's almost a height. And up to they got close 6 points. 6 points total. 6 points total. Okay.
I say we vote on the job.
32. So they got a total of 12. Okay, so you got 32 points. I know. That's over 52. Okay, so you guys next. Okay, so okay, so they got
Yeah, I missed you guys.
They got a total of 30 points, but they also want to drop. What? Drop it. Drop it and clean it.
That's not what it is.
Oh, gotta be over. Yeah. So it should be what? I mean, we're not hurt. So, 4 was 32? Yeah.
He's
Oh,
okay. All right.
Just wait about it. No. Oh, wow. It's not all about.
Digital marketing.
they not get 160? Okay. So you guys $54 minus 20 is 34. Oh, this is up too. Why not? Oh yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, we'll give it to you. They get another 40 points. Yeah. Oh, 60 points. Sorry, 60 points. So what's their total?
We're gonna lose it.
Okay, so they get so ours is actually two structures. Now we got to draw. It was just long enough. And their total height was. No, come on. Okay, so you guys got 60, 130, plus 46. I got 146. You guys are group 10, right? Yeah. You get someone else. They dropped it, so you guys get 140. Well, oh yeah. Okay. Are you guys going to be dropping or phoning or? I don't know. You take a phone. Okay, so that's not 52 points plus 40, that's 90. Okay. That was a really long process. Okay. Okay, so group 7, who's group 7? You guys? Congratulations. Who wants to claim the reward? Okay. So this was a very long process. To be honest, that kind of surprised me because I did not anticipate that they would have won. You guys did, like, it was just different. Everybody else tried to go for height. You guys did the approach. At least a lot of people tried to go for height. You guys were able to build a structure that gives support a book and just gracefully fall down. High wind resistance, I guess. So what did you guys learn from this activity other than frustration and sticky hands? How might this become applicable to the RBDC? Yeah.
We used all of the resources that we could,
Okay.
especially using the internet. It worked really well.
Oh, so you guys Googled it. Oh, great. I never seen things outside resources. So they Googled. Fantastic.
Another 10 points.
That's mine is 50.
How many websites do they use?
Guys, they won. It's okay.
I understand.
Okay, so they got 150 still won. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Well, the point of this was to show that there's limited constraints. Anything else that you guys learned or you think it's applicable to the RBDC? We're not going to be building towers, I can tell you that. Yeah.
I feel like communicating because sometimes I feel like we weren't on the same page.
Yeah, communicating.
Have the same vision.
Same vision. That's great because often in these projects, you can have multiple ideas going at the same time and multiple visions. You want a uniform vision. You think that helps your team. Very good. There's a hand back there. Yeah.
Sometimes like what you expect or what you vision is not what you want to get in the end.
Okay, what you expect, what you vision, what you anticipate doesn't happen. I think people probably visioned really nice, pretty structures, and that just did not happen. So what else? How does it apply to the RBDC?
I noticed that if people squeeze marshmallows, they take significantly better.
Okay, so you used your resources and you
Squeeze everything out of it.
squeezed something out of it. You used it differently. Did anybody else mush their marshmallows and see that was a good thing? They were marshmallow mushers.
Our table might cover.
Okay, well this is great. I didn't think about this. We have to clean that all up. Anything else? Anything else that people saw that they thought? Okay, so we hope this was a fun activity for you guys. The RBDC is extremely group heavy. It's very group focused. Lots of group work. Sometimes we butt heads, not bite, butt heads. Don't bite up your says. We butt heads. And it's difficult and it's challenging, but try your best to come together, come up with a solution, get on a uniform division, and then execute. And you're gonna have more time in the RBDC, but surprisingly enough, it will not feel like you do because the scopes are so intensive and so large. And if you feel like you have time, it means that you're probably going to be behind schedule at least 7 or 8. I would act as if you're behind schedule just throughout the whole semester, and it's just going to end up going a lot more smoothly. So we're just going to go with some tips of success before we eat the pizza. So these are some just all the project managers we talked and we narrowed down to some things that we think are really important. So be super proactive. Don't wait to be told what to do. Go out and start researching. Work with your team, problem solve, ask for help if it's needed. Just really practice. Sometimes interns will like wait a week to ask for help. Just if you do ask for it early, better than late. Don't procrastinate. Often projects will run behind schedule, and that's just stressful for you, stressful for the client, as well as for us. And we all have things to do. We all manage multiple projects, the project managers do. So our schedules get very busy. So please try to schedule in advance, days or weeks in advance, especially if this is like a day-to-day or practice presentation with Will. He's all 20 projects are going to try to do a practice presentation the same week as him, with him. Schedule stuff in advance early. Question everything. Everything that you encounter, every data set that you collect, question it. Think, is this really accurate? What is this really trying to say? Everything you guys see, the whole project, just question everything. The more questions you ask, the better everything's going to turn out. And come up with answers. At least try to come up with answers to those questions. Take responsibility for the project. Often there'll be finger pointing or name blaming or stuff. Just try to own the project, become the expert in it, take this responsibility upon yourself to really just kill it. And then just communicate a ton daily on Slack as much as possible. Just communicate. And if you do these things, you have a really good chance of being successful. If you don't, then your odds just skyrocket of unsuccessfulness in the internship. Do you have any last words that you want to talk about, like tips for success or?
No, I think those are great summary items there. Don't be afraid to be creative, ask questions. remember you got faculty up on campus. It's a great resource for you. Some of them have some great industry experience and know some databases that we don't know about, and they can accelerate your, I guess, effectiveness pretty quickly. I mean, they can, a 2-hour meeting with one of them can save you 50 hours of work on your own. So make sure you utilize campus resources out there. And then it's awesome that we get to work out of this room and some of these others over here. You guys will be able to collaborate with each other too, talk with each other, have a team, strategize. Use Slack, use the random channel on Slack, or maybe we could create another channel on there with just like a question channel you want to throw out there, or someone else is having the same challenge as you are, or whatever, you can throw it out there and ask for help.
Yeah, the random channel is a great channel for questions, for gifts, for funny videos. Every Monday is Meme Monday, Funny Meme Monday, no sad memes. And then every Friday is Funny Video Friday. So on the random channel. Yeah, did you have a question?
Yes. So 2 questions.
Yeah.
The first one is there a deadline to fill out that W-9 form?
Just as soon as possible, and just give it to your project manager.
Okay, and the second is, I don't know.
Okay, what do you think of it? So if you guys check your Slack channels, you all have been invited to your projects. Your project manager will post saying, hey, I'm your project manager, you see, you get to know him, get to meet your teams. Now, use this time first. We're going to clean up all the junk and kind of stay in a trash bag. Then we're going to eat pizza, mingle with your team members, learn about your project. You can talk with us. And before we start and we break to clean up and do all that stuff, if there's any last questions about the internship in general, about something, hobbies, yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so we use Google to track our time.
Yes.
And any time we're working on an internship, we put in and then out, right?
Yeah, any RBDC related thing. Yeah, so this training counts. Workshop counts. You give a team members counts, client consultation counts, research counts, anything RBDC related counts. Just clock in and clock out when you're working. Yeah.
What if we forget to clock in and out?
So if you forget, you're able to go back in and just like clock in and out, and you can edit the times, and you'll be able to change that. If you have issues with that, talk to us, and we can help you guys out with that. But it is editable.
Real quick too, we're going to send out a Google form on the training page on Slack. We just want to know if you were here, and you guys can give us suggestions so that we can improve on the trainings as well. So please fill that out today, just so we know that you're here. And we should be adding you to your Google Drive folder that has resources for your project. So that's something that you should expect today.
Yeah, as well as a Trello invite, which can help you guys task manage inside your project specific board.
And junior analysts, you'll have to add research specialists onto the Trello board. Okay? So if you have any questions with that, just let me know.
Yeah. And if you like, so say you have a team member, so I'm going to go to Bonneville County for these lucky interns that are going to work with me on this project. Up here in Slack is the member list. All the project managers are going to be invited. You're going to have one who's like over the project. If you want to see their emails, you can click on an individual, and you can click View Profile, and it tells you their email that they have to register with. So if you like, so for the junior analysts who are going to send invites to Trello, you just grab emails from there. But please do all communication on Slack so that we are able to see it. We're able to answer questions. It also just helps us stay aware of what status is on the project. So, yes. Any other questions before we clean up and then eat pizzas? Yes.
So what if you haven't been assigned to a project?
You should have been.
Talk to us if you haven't been assigned to projects yet.
Okay. I can help you out.
Yeah, if anybody's not on Slack, then you haven't been assigned to a project because we can't assign you yet.
I can explain to you one thing or the other.
Okay, so let's clean up. We should have a trash bag. Connor, get that? Maybe not. Okay. No. Any tables are sticky? Try to like wash them, like just like wet them down and why it's just so we see them like in all computers and okay. So online interns, I recommend connecting on Slack, send some messages, introduce yourself, and get to know your team. Okay? Yeah. They will make themselves known.